The worst fear of any parent is the death of their child. Funerals are expensive, and mortuary services often take advantage of people's pocketbooks at their most vulnerable moment. So skip these expensive funeral homes and come on down to Uncle Wally's Discount Child Coffin Warehouse. We have certified, pre-owned, infant, toddler, and prepubescent-sized coffins priced at less than half of what the other guys charge. You couldn't save your child, but you can save your money. Come see us at Uncle Wally's Discount Child Coffins in the Funeral District on 3rd. Mention this ad when you buy a coffin and get a 10% off coupon for your next child coffin purchase. Hello and welcome to Horror Movie Talk.
An opinionated and accidentally funny horror movie review show. Go, 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 go.
Let's stroll through the scraggly woods. He had no face! Horror!
Sabrina, don't just stare at it, eat it.
New theatrical releases always get priority.
But we also review older horror movies, both good and horrible.
Wow, that didn't sound good.
Hey, everybody, I'm Bryce Hanson.
Yes, it is. And I'm David Day. I'm the foremost expert in scare no-nos.
Yes.
I don't know if you...
And I'm also, I hold a PhD in spookology.
Right.
So we're experts at the horror genre, not like these amateur podcasts. I mean,
get out of here with that.
we have the pedigree. So before we get started, I always want to mention our website, horrormovietalk.com. Check it out. You'll find links to past episodes and links to our social media where you can contact us and discuss horror with a pretty great horror community. We post new episodes every Wednesday, so please subscribe. And one of the finest things you can do as a listener is leave us a rating on Apple Podcasts if you own an Apple product.
I get full chub when I see a new review. And, you know, I think our buddy from Boston, Southie, I can't remember his name, but I've been thinking
Matt Damon?
No, the guy who gave us a review last week, and you were so butthurt about him
Affleck?
not liking the drops.
Well, it could have been at any time. We don't know when this episode's coming out.
Oh, yeah, that's right. Yes, this episode is pre-recorded for her viewing pleasure. Mm-hmm. And, but I just think we gave him too hard of a time. Yeah,
I mean, it's fair. Like, my immediate reaction is fight me, but I guess that's like kind of what you want from someone from Southie.
Yeah,
right? I mean, that's probably what he wants.
Yeah, he's like, I'll take you.
Fucking fight me, bro.
Fight me.
Yeah, I mean, he said he didn't like the drops and the extra bits and the music. Like, I've been thinking about it. I tried to take every comment with, I take it seriously, and I think we might be able to cut down on the length of some of the interstitial music.
Maybe.
I
don't know.
But you can take my drops when you pry them from my cold, dead hands.
Yeah, my levels aren't even on right now.
Oh, sorry.
Not a big deal.
Is that a raincoat? Yes, it is.
Thank you.
And the other thing I thought about is like maybe David's drops. Like my drops are probably fine. Oh. But I mean, we can only take so much of American Psycho.
Right. I don't think so. I think you should eat it.
Today we're going to be talking about The Exorcist. I don't know if you've heard about this movie.
It's a little movie, 70s.
It's a pretty old one. It's like 47 years old, more than 47 years old, depending on when this is released.
That's crazy.
Almost a 50-year-old movie. It's, we want to surface it and let you know about this.
Yeah, it's a
gem.
It's a hidden gem.
Yeah. We'll start out by giving a brief review and our score for the movie. We score on a scale of 1 to 10, 1 being a miserable dredge, where it makes you angry, 5 being a 5 being an average film that hits all the expected marks, and 10 being so good it transcends genre boundaries. I mean, yeah.
Yeah, okay, yeah.
After we give our score, we'll get into spoilers and take a deeper dive into what we liked and hated about the film. Later, we'll be doing, depending on when we release it, this is hard when we do a pre-recorded one. For us, a brand new bit.
Yeah, totally new.
Recommended or suggested by one of our listeners, Game called Guess That Death.
Guess That Death.
It really, really begs for a theme song.
I'm excited for this.
I didn't have enough time to.
I don't know what this is. What maybe Max hit us up with one. Max.
Yeah.
Max_Allen. I think it's 1235 on Instagram.
Mm-hmm.
Check him out for all of your audio needs.
So let's hop into the review. We watched, for me, again, The Exorcist, and it's my favorite horror movie, so I'm probably going to be biased.
It's your favorite.
It's my absolute favorite. Like,
Tip top.
It reminded me why it's my favorite.
Yeah, I mean, it's iconic in so many ways. It's oh shit, I got an article about it that Carrie sent me last night when she was doing some research about the movie, because I was like, I think this movie has some fucking fucked up shit about that.
Yeah, we'll get into that in the spoilers and talk about some of the backstory.
It's an obvious classic, maybe the classic. I think when I think of the big three of horror, I go Alien, Exorcist, and Texas Chainsaw.
I would probably go Exorcist, Chainsaw, and The Shining.
Yeah, The Shining's definite. Oh, and then I don't know. I don't know. You can't ditch Alien for me.
Yeah.
And then also there's a statement to be made probably about Rosemary's Baby.
Yeah.
So, but those are definitely the top 4 or 5.
Yeah. So let's listen to the trailer for The Exorcist.
Somewhere between science and superstition, there is another world. The world of darkness. Nobody expected it.
All right, let's see what the...
Nobody believed it. And nothing could stop it.
There are no experts. You probably know as much about possession as most priests. Look, your daughter doesn't say she's a demon. She says she's the devil himself.
I'm telling you that thing upstairs isn't my daughter. Now, I want you to tell me that you know for a fact that there's nothing wrong with my daughter except in her mind. You tell me you know for a fact that an exorcism wouldn't do any good. You tell me that!
The one hope. The only hope. The Exorcist.
So, The Exorcist, if you don't know, is about an exorcism of a little girl. Reagan, played by Linda Blair, is the 12-year-old daughter of single mother Chris McNeil, played by Ellen Burstyn. Reagan starts complaining about her bed shaking at night, and then as days pass, her personality slowly changes, and she starts behaving erratically.
That was a party bed.
Yeah.
It's like, those beds you put a quarter in and then it kind of buzzes?
Yeah.
This was
Magic fingers.
Yeah, this was like, have you ever done one of those?
No.
You looked at me with like this knowing.
No, I think of the X-Files episode.
Oh.
With the magic fingers. That's a great episode.
Yeah, no. This was like the roller coaster ride version of that.
It's like
the magic fingers bed.
It's like the dark version of bed knobs and broomsticks.
The Exorcist, also known as Bad Bed Knobs and Broomsticks.
Okay. Chris, the mother, exhausts every medical and psychological avenue and is still left hopeless as her daughter continues to get worse. Some doctors reluctantly mention exorcism as an option. Father Karras, played by Jason Miller, is a reluctant skeptic, but is recruited to perform an exorcism. With the help of an older, more experienced exorcist, Father Marin, played by Max von Sydow, they struggle to expel the demon or demons that are tormenting Reagan. There are
kids, I don't want to alarm you, but there may be a boogeyman or boogeymen in this house.
The Exorcist is the center tentpole of the horror genre for me, and probably for a lot of people. It's often in the top of the best horror movies of all time lists, and for good reason. Some of the themes and scenes from the movie are still genuinely disturbing nearly 50 years after its release. It deals with a lot of conscious and subconscious fears about life, reality, and little girls.
Yeah, boy, yeah. Yeah, that's a good point. That last point, I was like, little girls, and then I was like, yeah.
A lot of the notoriety about the film comes from its marketing and stories of people fainting or leaving the theater sick. However, it doesn't owe its longevity to these gimmicks. It is still held as one of the best critical and commercial successes in horror. Did you know, adjusted for inflation, The Exorcist is the top gross R-rated movie of all time?
I have currently this is from a Looper article. It says, currently the film still holds the spot for the second highest earning R-rated horror film of all time. So yeah. I don't know. I mean, either way, that's fucking impressive.
Yeah. And you can find some critics that back then that shit on it. But the gist that you get of it is they're kind of offended that it went so far, or they thought it was like schlocky how far it went. But I mean, it's so grounded. It feels like the first half of the movie
first three
grounded.
Quarters. Yeah. It's the final fourth act is really where it kind of goes nuts. It in theaters, it pulled in almost $200 million.
Jesus.
And in subsequent, director's cut releases, it pulled in another 40 mil.
Yeah.
And by the way, this is a movie where the director's cut is even better.
I don't know. I could. There's better parts and worse parts.
Right. I mean, it's unbelievable that they cut the spider walk scene.
Yeah.
Out of the.
Well, I mean, that was like technological limitations of the time. The director said that he cut that scene just because there was no way to really convincingly paint out the wires.
Oh.
But yeah, I mean, I watched it, and I watched it in theaters when it came out, when it was re-released in 2000 something.
Okay.
Or earlier.
I did not. I missed that boat.
And that one is the re-release is the one with the spider walk.
Mm-hmm.
And it's an iconic scene to this film. And that's it didn't exist for 20 years after the initial release of the movie. So, anyways, the special effects might not hold up to modern audiences, but everything else is timeless. The acting is great. The themes are handled maturely, and the director had an unhealthy conviction to get his vision of the story. Like that, there's some behind the scenes stuff around that's like, you really
fucked up poor Linda Blair.
Yeah, William Friedkin is kind of an asshole. You know?
Actually, that's a common theme between three of the biggest movies that we mentioned. So you got Rosemary's Baby, and I mean, I don't have to tell you about what's his name,
Roman Polanski.
I don't have to tell you what Roman Polanski did. Google it.
Well, it's not like that was part of the film.
No.
It's not like he was like raping children on the side.
No, but Texas Chainsaw, I mean, those people were tormented during the filming of that movie. That was, no one had a good time filming Texas Chainsaw. That was a nightmarish ordeal for everyone involved.
Yeah, and Kubrick was horrible to Shelley Duvall.
Yeah, Shelley Duvall was, also hugely traumatized by Kubrick. Intentionally. Like things that probably wouldn't happen today.
And I'm sure Ridley Scott was an asshole too.
have you know, he's the only one who had a female lead.
Yeah. Well, I know this had a female lead.
That's true.
I mean, this movie is carried by Ellen Burstyn.
Yeah.
Holy shit.
Yeah.
Of all these things, the narrative, the acting, the themes, they all work together to create a film that has spun off a whole subgenre of exorcism and demonic children horror movies. It's my favorite horror movie. It's a 10 out of 10 for me, but I mean, even if I step back and say, like, if it wasn't my favorite or I didn't listen to all the hype, if you just look at it on its merits, it is still a 10 out of 10. I mean, I'm not going to be a stickler and say, like, oh, you know, the makeup looked fake, you know, at the end. Like, you have to take it within the time that it was released, you know?
Yeah.
It's absolutely like a legend.
I mean,
it's one of the greatest films of all time. Not just horror films. Like it was also the first horror movie to be nominated for Best Film.
First and only.
No, Get Out was nominated.
Oh, yeah.
Well, I don't know if it was nominated for Best Film. Rosemary's Baby was.
Oh, yeah.
I think maybe The Shining, but I'm not sure.
I don't think The Shining was. But I tell you what. I don't know. I mean, this is where reviewing becomes. I always will say this is reviewing movies is it's a silly thing to do, because they're just, you know, you either like them or you don't, or they strike you or they don't. And I mean, so this set up the genre, and it did it in an appropriate way for a subject that had never been touched on really in films before. And it did it so slowly, though, that now, in contrast, it is a slow burn. It is a real slow burn. Now, that's not to say that there aren't horror elements throughout the first half or even definitely throughout the first 3/4 of the movie, but they're few and far between. But it's taking its time to set up.
I think all the great horror movies do that. Like they don't blow their load early, unless it's like, I mean, there's certain cases where early on it has a big scare, but
it's interesting. It's interesting the direction they take at the start of this movie, and I like it because it feels kind of Kubrick-esque, like the desert scene with the demon statue and the standoff, and it's like a storm's a brewing kind of feel.
Yeah,
it's an interesting, you know, and I guess the film that feels the most similar in kind of a weird way is Jurassic Park. Because
okay,
I know. It just
what?
they just take it in these steps from far away to getting closer to getting closer to getting closer, and then boom, now we're here with the dinosaurs, or we're here with the devil, and it's just that that exposure, that moment of like, whoa, what the fuck?
Yeah,
like, oh, it's just like mind blowing. It's like, oh. But it is a little slow for me.
Yeah, I mean, it ramps up. I mean, to me, it ramps up very naturally. Like it escalates pretty naturally throughout the course of the film.
Yes, it does.
And that's one of the things that the director kind of said about the spider walk scene, that it was too much too early. And really, it's kind of a good point.
Yeah, that's a really good point.
Because the spider walk down the stairs was at the party part of it, where she pees her pants.
That early?
I think it was that early. And
yeah, the pants peeing is enough.
Yeah.
Like, that was enough for me to be like, the fuck is, what the?
Yeah.
Like, you know, a 14-year-old girl doesn't walk downstairs and pee the floor in front of everyone.
Yeah, it's anyways, I got in an argument with someone on Reddit. You know, someone was wrong on the internet, so I had to get in an argument about I can't even remember what the point was. Oh, someone was talking about what movie was it? Oh, Hell or High Water. Oh. Like how good of a movie Hell or High Water was, and someone just mentioned like it was okay. I was like, well, it's not it's not like the guy that was the original poster was being hyperbolic. It was nominated for Best Picture that year.
Right.
Like, it's widely regarded.
Out of a lot of good films that year.
Yeah, widely regarded as a great film.
Yeah.
And then I guess the Oscars are like a trigger word for Reddit because they're like, that means nothing. That's a shitty thing. That means nothing. Oscars that doesn't say anything about the movie. It's like, all right, man. It's like I get it, but if you're talking about an artistic, like product, you can't just go off of personal opinions for
that's another one
for how you subjectively. It's if you want to make it less subjective of a call, you have to use some kind of metrics like critical reviews or industry awards or something like that.
That's another one that hit me so hard on first viewing. Like, I was like, damn, what a fucking just astonishingly good movie.
Yeah.
And then on second viewing, a little slow. Same thing. Just same thing as The Exorcist for me. Like, it's just slow now. Because it's like, you know what it's like? It's like, you know, when you're driving somewhere new, the drive there takes forever. And that's like the second viewing of movies.
Yeah.
Because the drive back is just like, oh yeah, I remember all this.
Yeah. I mean, we don't have to talk much about Hell or High Water, but I mean, that's a pretty subtle movie. There's a lot of stuff in there. Yeah. In terms of like the interrelationship stuff.
Yeah. And just
really,
social commentary.
I mean, that's really what I like about it was like just the relationship between those two brothers. So realistic.
Yeah. Yeah. They were real people for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. Jeff Bridges felt like standard Jeff Bridges bad guy.
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't even say. I mean, who's the bad guy in that movie? Let's stop talking about Hell or High Water. Okay. Let's get into our mid-roll.
I'd say 10 out of 10 for Exorcist as well.
Yeah,
just with a few little notations.
I mean, you could also say that. I mean, there's lots of horror movies that you could say are slow on the second viewing.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Let's talk about our Patreon. Go check out our Patreon page, patreon.com/horrormovietalk. We have different tiers for all price ranges and all different perks.
Getting kind of popular. Everybody's kind of bumping up their patronage. I'm just saying. I mean, just recently, it's been.
Yeah, I mean, I'm
kicking off, and it's because it's a good product.
Yeah,
we ship a good product.
Yeah, I'm surprised at. I mean, I shouldn't say I'm surprised at this support, but I mean, it's a really, I don't know how to describe it. Touching. I don't know. Really
makes you feel good in your
validating.
Yeah, validating.
To see that someone wants to financially support the podcast. Some of the things that we offer that patrons kind of like is the Afterpod, which is a whole nother podcast where we just leave the mics running and talk about what's going on in our lives and maybe a little more, off topic stuff. And then the other thing that patrons like is being able to have input on our patron selection. So they come up with as patrons, they come up with a selection of movies to vote on, and then they vote on them, and we do a review in the next month. And
there's a bunch of other stuff, like you can listen to these episodes early. Mm-hmm. In fact, I imagine that this episode will be available at least probably within a week or two from being recorded, even though it probably won't be released for several weeks. So
yeah. You can also support the podcast by going to Horror Movie Talk and clicking through the button in the top banner to Amazon. You're going to be buying stuff on Amazon anyway, so might as well let them kick a little money back to us for referring you. This movie, I don't know, at the time of release of this episode, if this is true, but The Exorcist was on Shudder. That's where we watched it. It's a great platform for streaming movies and TV shows in the horror genre. If you want to try out Shudder, use code HMT at checkout, and you'll get a 30-day free trial instead of their shitty, insulting 7-day free trial.
You can say it. It's retarded.
Yeah. It's R-worded. It's TikToked.
Oh, sorry.
Thanks again for listening. Let's get into spoilers. Spoilers.
Oh.
So yeah, we already mentioned some of this stuff that I want to talk about, but let's talk about the behind the scenes stuff a little bit about William Friedkin, the director. He sounds like not a great guy.
Oh, why
like,
is that?
Just the way he treated the actors. And I think it's like, he was doing it for a purpose. He was trying to get the performance that he wanted, but also like, it's like, there's other ways to do it.
Come on, bro.
So here's a couple of things that happened on the set. He shot a gun like pretty close to Jason Miller's ear to get a reaction.
What the fuck?
And Jason Miller was like pissed off. He's like, I'm an actor. I can act surprised. Like, you don't have to shoot a fucking gun, And so it's just that there's...
That's unbelievable. Like, for everyone who can't see me, like, I'm a mouth ajar. If somebody did that shit to me, I'd kill them. Mm-hmm. You're gonna fucking shoot a gun next to my head? That is unbelievable.
That's not even the worst of it. Ellen Burstyn, you know that scene where Reagan throws her across the room?
Oh yeah. Mm-hmm. When she was masturbating with the cross violently.
And Jesus, yeah.
Yeah.
Wait, what? So how? You distracted me now. That's such a. We'll get into that.
That's just a Wednesday night.
Yeah. Our house. Jesus Christ. So to accomplish that, they tied like a rope around her and yanked her down. Ooh. And Ellen Burstyn, she was like, "Can you just, don't do it too hard. Like, don't like pull it to where I'm going to hurt myself."
This guy sounds like my dad.
And then William Friedkin went to the stuntman that was, going to pull the rope.
Slipped him a 20 and was like, crack some ribs.
Yeah, I think there was like 2 men that were on this rope.
What?
And he just said like, just pull it as fucking hard as you can. And they yanked her. They like, it threw her down to the floor. And like that reaction of her like in agony, that was an actual reaction because she really hurt her back. And she says that she basically has permanent damage from that.
This dude is my dad. That's what I'm learning now.
The other one was when I didn't even write this one down, but when Linda Blair is being that scene on the bed where she's like sitting up and laying back down, flopping around
real hard.
So apparently that the laces came kind of loose on the thing that was holding her to the contraption that was, setting her up and throwing her down.
Okay.
And that was also being controlled by big burly men. And she was just like really flopping around and she really hurt herself. She actually broke her back.
What?
And they didn't send her to the hospital. And, both of those scenes, the one with Ellen Burstyn, hurting her back and Linda Blair breaking her back, those were the scenes, those were the takes used in the film. So it comes off as very realistic because it is real. They're really like horrified and hurt.
That's unbelievable.
The scene where William O'Malley recalled that William Friedkin slapped him prior to shooting and caused his hand to tremble while blessing Father Karras. So like one of the very closing scenes when Father Karras is being read his last rites. Yeah. The other priest, I guess, got slapped by the director to get a good take.
Dude, I would murder this dude.
And then lastly, this is just like post-production, Friedkin actually hated the original music so much that at the recording session, he yelled at the orchestra to stop playing, removed the reels that had been recording the music from the sound desk, and promptly threw the reels into the street in front of the composer and his wife.
Wow. Yeah, this dude's just a narcissist.
Yeah, I mean, to a certain degree, I mean, that's kind of being a director, isn't it? But Well, I don't know.
No.
I guess like I wouldn't say
It's like
Spielberg is probably narcissist.
The difference between a good manager and a bad manager, you know?
Yeah.
So like, you can get people to do things without making them hate you.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I looked at who the original composer was, and I mean, he probably made the right call. Like the guy.
Oh, I mean, unquestionably, he made the right call.
Yeah.
But you don't have. I don't know.
Yeah. So, I mean, for all those reasons and other reasons, this is considered a cursed production.
I heard something like there was a lot of tertiary, like an abnormal amount of, and in close proximity to each other, deaths.
Yeah, I mean,
so cast members and production team staff, like a lot of people, all within the month or two of shooting this.
Yeah, it's not nearly as bad as like the Poltergeist or some of the other movies, or like Twilight Zone, where people actually died during the shooting of the movie or died directly after or something like that. But there, yeah, like you said,
The Crow.
Yeah, there's some tertiary deaths. Like Max von Sydow's brother died right before production started. There are some other people whose relatives died, I think, during production. I think Jason Miller had someone that died that was close to him.
Is he the younger priest?
Yeah.
Yeah. I think that gets an unfair amount of press.
Yeah.
Because this movie at the time was lobbied against heavily by the Catholic Church, as well as like every Catholic Church member, who was super devout. And I think people really didn't want this to see the light of day. And so they would, there was a lot of, what do you call it? Propaganda about this movie, just to kind of, and it really helped. Obviously, it really helped with,
I mean,
the box
it's
office
like
draw.
it's not the first movie to do that, and it's definitely not the last to use kind of gimmicks and like kind of like questions about what's going on with this movie. Like what's to build the buzz.
Yeah.
The other thing that
the Blair Witch Project was like,
right.
Is this shit real?
Right.
Holy shit, is this shit real?
Or like Paranormal Activity, when they advertised that, they just showed
the
reactions
audiences.
of the audiences, or whenever you talk about like a piece of art that made people vomit or something.
Like Cannibal Holocaust or something like that. It's like, is this real?
There's a book by
are people really being murdered and eaten in this?
Chuck Palahniuk's novel, The Haunted. I think it was Haunted. It has a scene in there where it basically, I remember on the press for it was like, people threw up after reading this chapter, which is pretty intense. But anyways, it's not a new thing. The other last thing to talk about is the cursed production is there was actually a serial killer in the movie.
What?
So in the scene where,
let me guess, where he's walking to his mom's house through New York.
No.
Okay.
I can't remember if it's actually a serial killer, but an actual killer. But
that's, by the way, that moment that I mentioned where he's walking through actual New York City, that's like my ultimate, most romantic version of New York City I have in my mind.
Just the kids completely demolishing a car.
Yeah, where there's spray paint everywhere, and an old man just kind of like, passed out on a stoop, and like little kids running the place, and it's like, this place is creepy. I love it.
So there's the scene in the hospital where she's getting I can't remember, it's like an angio something. Where
that was super disturbing.
Yeah.
Where they were taking video of the inside of her head with these big loud clappy machines.
Mm-hmm. So there's a thing where they're inserting like a wire into her artery or whatever. So that scene looked very realistic because they used an actual like neurosurgeon.
Okay.
And his staff. And so there was like a medical assistant in that scene that later was convicted of murder of some guy. So, interesting things to make you go,
Very nice.
Yeah. I was always confused at the beginning of this film. Very much like the Shining, like it kind of puts you off kilter. Like you kind of,
or 2001. It feels very 2001 Space Odyssey kind of monolith scene. It's like, what does that mean? What's this about?
So the beginning and even the ending is a little confusing. You're like, what? Like you kind of have. I had to read what specifically happened. Like it feels very symbolic.
Yeah.
It's very much like you can tell the dog's the evil guy because he's got real shifty eyes. I was trying to pull that clip from The Simpsons and I couldn't find it. But it's very much like tonal.
Yeah.
It starts out in Iraq. Max von Sydow's character, Father Marin, is also kind of an archaeologist, and they're doing a dig in like Nineveh or something, like somewhere around Iraq,
somewhere around the loincloth of the world.
And he uncovers some weird little trinket, which, I mean, just from the music and the reaction will tell you it's evil somehow. But you're like, okay.
Is that near the Tigris and the Euphrates?
I don't know. And then
that's where the world was birthed. I just realized how terrible that first clip I said, the loincloth of the world. I just meant the loins of the world. It wasn't like that. The place where the world was birthed. Civilization.
And then he finds some like statue that, is also evil because there's evil music behind it. It's it doesn't explain anything. And it's
got a dick.
There's a whole backstory, and I think the novel goes into it more, and the subsequent sequels go into it more. But the demon's name is actually Pazuzu. And it never mentions that in the film or really talks about who Pazuzu is. But Pazuzu is an actual like Assyrian demon that was like the demon of like drought or something like that. So
as we were watching this, Carrie, I made mention of. I think I made mention of Emily Rose and then also Hereditary, and she was like, "So is it like a demon that's in her, or is it the devil?" And I was like, "Well, I mean, I'm not sure in The Exorcist, but usually it's a demon." She's like, "Well, like, is it just any old demon?" And I was like, "Well, it's like in Emily Rose, he says it's Belial and Legion, and then in Hereditary, they say it's Paimon." She's like, "What are you talking about? What are all these names you're coming up with?" And I was like, "Wait, what?" And she's like, "What are all these names? Belial, Beelzebub. Isn't that just a lyric from a Queen song?" And then I realized my wife didn't know that demons were angels cast out of heaven along with Satan.
She doesn't know anything.
She had no idea.
I mean,
and so she's like,
credit,
so they have names and they're like characters. I was like, yeah, they each do a thing for Satan.
I mean, to her credit, it really doesn't even talk about that in the Bible. Like that's,
this is all such.
Yeah, there's a whole
folklore.
There's a whole like thing around demonology and the Catholic Church. I almost wanted to do another podcast.
If it were in the Bible, it wouldn't make a difference to her. She wouldn't have.
I mean, these names are mentioned in the Bible just as kind of alternate names for Satan and for like pagan gods. Like Baal is like a pagan god that's, there's a story of, who is it? Is it Elijah? It's either Elijah or Ezekiel. Someone with an E name.
Enoch.
The priests of Baal are like, our God's better than your God. And he's like, oh yeah, well, make your God set fire to all these things. And then they
go and set fire to
They pray to Baal and like nothing happens. And like, oh yeah, we'll check out what my God can do. And then the God of Abraham like came and burned everything, and then stuff.
And then they did, and now you're not invited to my birthday party.
Yeah. So there's like biblical stories that mention these names, but it never really talks or codifies about what a demon is or what really happens in the, ether.
I was like, the lieutenants of hell, you know. And she was like, what lieutenants? You mean they have like a military?
I mean,
there's like, yeah, kind of.
There's other apocryphal stuff and just literature talks about it a lot more. So like Paradise Lost goes into a lot of that stuff. Yeah. Anyways, yeah, demons. I almost wanted to do like another podcast, a separate podcast on demonology.
So much fun to learn all that stuff.
Just like an actual like academic.
That's kind of asking for it though, you know? I mean, maybe. There's an aspect of this movie that it hits some weird nerve within me.
Yeah, tell the audience the conversation you had with your wife.
Yeah, she goes, oh, this is so scary. She goes, this is so scary. What do you believe? Like, you were a Christian at some point. Do you, like, does this really happen? And I was like, I mean, it happens. And whether or not it's real, I tell you what, I know I'm scared enough of this happening that I would not risk cursing my family by denouncing it. You know, I wouldn't say it's not real because that means I'm putting myself at risk according to the lore of a lot of these movies. And
yeah, it's one of those things where something like this happens and it's real to the people that it happens to.
Right. Yeah, that's exactly right. And who knows how deep that goes. Yeah. Something tells me it's not real deep. Another thing tells me that Hereditary could be very real. And that's a horrifying thought, is just being a sacrificial lamb.
Yeah. One of the main lessons from The Exorcist is don't fuck with Ouija boards.
Yeah. Quidja.
Huiuaja.
Luigi board. Luigi board?
They're tricky. Yeah, I wrote down, like, I honestly didn't remember the Ouija board part. Like, I wrote down, like, yeah, in this film, they don't ever really show Reagan inviting in the devil or doing anything weird. And then it showed, like, the next scene was the Ouija board scene. I'm like, oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Now I remember. She's, like, having personal conversations with Captain Howdy.
Hey.
Which is...
That's
such a great name.
That's a great name.
Captain Howdy.
For a little girl to come up with the name of her demon.
Yeah.
Captain Howdy.
Yeah, so don't fuck with Ouija boards.
Yeah, just don't do it.
That's another one, like, along those lines of, I don't want to say they're not real because I don't want to be cursed. I also don't want to play with a Ouija board just because, you know, what's the upside?
What's to be gained?
Yeah.
I want to play with one so bad. But I can't. I can't. My hands are bound. What am I going to do? Invite the devil into my house? I don't think so.
When I was a real young kid, the, like, kindergarten age or very soon after,
I know where you're going with it.
We played with a Ouija board and nothing happened, but I remember we left the friend's house and then came back, and then I felt like something really bad is in that house. Like, I really don't feel right about going into the house, and I made him stay outside. It was, I mean, just like superstition or just the feeling I got.
Yeah.
You know,
I love that shit.
Yeah.
Oh man, this goes so deep. So, this thing you're describing is like this sort of like sixth sense of a kid, and it's also like the experiences of a kid.
Yeah.
They're so different. You know, now everything's kind of black and white for you and me.
Yeah, I mean, you forget about the magical thinking of kids.
Right.
Like, the world of magic is real.
Right.
To kids.
And I was talking to one of our bloggers, Leah, who has written a bunch of blogs that I need to work on this weekend to get them out. And I sent her a book that reminds me a lot of that feeling, which is The Wasp Factory. Did you ever read that?
I still haven't finished the...
It's about... it's a book by my favorite author, Ian Banks, and it captures that. The feeling of being a little kid with a bunch of superstitions and feelings. You know? So if you guys like that, what I'm describing, check that book out, The Wasp Factory.
So let's talk about some of the things that just really work for this movie. I think the I mean, you said it felt a little slow upon repeat watching. Like, I don't agree. It felt like perfect to me.
Okay.
Because it really takes its time in setting up the characters and setting up the relationship. It shows you, and it's not just like a scene where like, hey, she's a normal girl.
Yeah.
Like, it's a mom-daughter relationship. Like, it's considerable amount of time is spent like showing this relationship, how loving they are.
Yeah. It's critical for the empathy to be there, for the audience to be like, oh, look, they love each other and they're just normal people.
And I'll tell you what, like, as with most horror movies, this viewing of it is a lot different now that I have a little girl, you know, that I'm a father. I mean, it's probably the same for you. Like, and mine's, I don't think either one of our daughters are even close to the age. I think that Reagan is supposed to be 12.
Yeah, right around puberty, kind of.
And so, my daughter's 7 right now.
Damn, I can't believe she's 7.
But I've had similar moments that they portray in this movie of just bedtime, having a chat, like listening to what, you know, her wants and like talking about stuff that's she doesn't understand, you know, things like that. It felt very real. Like, Linda Blair was a good little actress.
Oh yeah. Yeah, they're good relationships.
I guess you could say I just want to have a meaningful relationship with someone special.
The other thing that works is the character development of Father Karras. I mean, before he's even involved with the McNeil family, you know, you see him conversing with other priests saying that he's basically lost his faith, that he doesn't want to be a priest anymore. His job is to be a psychiatrist to Catholic priests, which probably is a pretty harrowing profession in itself.
Yeah, especially now that we understand everything that entails. You know, Tom, I just can't help but put my dick in little boys. Just over and over again, and I ask for forgiveness, and I feel like he does it, but you know, I mean, then I just do it again.
Yeah, oh, man. Again, whenever I talk about, you know, Catholic priest pedophilia, there's a documentary that you have to watch called "Deliver Us from Evil." Okay. I think that's what it's called.
Yeah,
it's something.
I seem to remember that.
It's either Hear No Evil. It's something No Evil, or Deliver Us from Evil. But it just documents like just one guy, but it shows how the Catholic Church worked and how like the things that feed into those attitudes about. Anyways, it's dirty. Oh, that's not a part of this movie at all. But I mean, just he's disillusioned. He's disillusioned.
Yeah.
The
old attic.
The old attic. We'll get to the old attic. But I mean, the character development's there. You get a real feeling and a backstory and stuff happens around Father Karras and stuff happens around the mother-daughter to see like, they're not, feels like real life. They're not stable. They're dealing with shit. Right. You know?
Yeah. They're people.
They're not completely secure. They're not like super happy.
And they're not one-dimensional characters.
Yeah. And then shit starts to happen. And where does it start happening?
God damn, it's that damn old attic.
The old attic.
Man, I mean, it's just had such a Paranormal Activity vibe to it. Like, or I guess Paranormal Activity just stole the vibe directly.
Yeah, I mean, it's got a lot of parts in this movie that are very... I mean, I don't know.
Modern.
I don't know if they were done really that way before this movie, because it feels like very much a trope now.
Yeah.
Where but it felt very real. Like you hear this sound, this weird sound in the attic, and you just look up there and you're like, you don't see anything. You're just like, it's unseen.
Yeah.
And you're like, what is that? Well, it's probably
raccoons.
It's probably something explainable, easily explainable. It's rats or whatever. And then eventually she investigates this sound, and one of the unsung heroes of this movie is the jump scare in the attic.
Yeah, that scene had so much like latent tension just building around it.
Because you hear the sound and it's coming from like no source. Like
And-
that's the feeling you get. Like it's happening like right next to her and she has no idea what's making it.
Yeah.
Like there's no explanation
And she's
for
got
it.
a candle. It's
And
like,
she's got a
what
candle.
the hell is going on? Did
Yeah.
people take candles up into the attic in the 70s? That seems like a surefire way to burn your house down.
Well, you can't be bothered to go find a flashlight. Who knows where a flashlight is?
Who knows?
It's like the bread ties.
What year
like
was
you
this?
set them down and they just disappear.
just
You don't know
disappear.
where they go. That's what flashlights are.
What year is this?
1973?
73. Okay, see, that's believable. To me, I have no frame of reference. Maybe surely flashlights weren't just a buck at the corner store back then.
Right.
They were probably $20, and you maybe had one.
Yeah.
So maybe you got candles all. I don't know. I grew up in the 80s. I have no idea.
So anyway, she's up in the attic, and then there's this big flame that shoots out from the candle at this moment, and she jump scare, and it does something really cool. Like, she immediately gets distracted by the servant that's walking up the stairs or whatever, to where it's a very subtle thing, but I realize, like, that is a actual human thing to where if something happens and you're immediately distracted, you can forget it or think that, oh, that must not have been how it happened. I must have got startled by the guy walking up and it felt like the candle shot up, but that didn't actually happen.
It's in your memory feels unreliable. Just seconds after things happen anyway.
Yeah.
And then you kind of cement it into reality a couple days later. It's like,
Right.
no, that didn't happen.
Yeah. Some more color. I love the drunk director harassing the Nazi, or that same servant that surprised her in the attic. I don't think it doesn't really like cement whether he was a Nazi or not.
Right.
But he was a foreign butler kind of thing.
Yeah.
He's like just this drunk.
Yeah, okay.
Not entirely belligerent director, but like really going after this guy until the servant like tries to choke him out. And just the look of satisfaction on the director's face, like
yeah. And the party feels how I imagine all dinner parties in the 70s were.
Yeah.
You know, like classy, people dressed up, they had their sport coat on.
You have a living room where you entertain. You know?
Yeah, you have your priest there, and he's playing the piano, and he's getting sloshed because he's a priest, you know, and it's like, goddamn, yeah, just ambiance all over the place.
And that's the scene where Reagan comes back down the stairs. I mean, she was at the party and acting normal.
Yeah.
Then she comes back down the stairs, and she looks like ominous. And I think it's probably one of the first occurrences of those like real black eyes, you know, black eyes, not black guys. She's got black eye, like doll's eyes. And she looks at this astronaut and she's like, "You're going to die up there." And then she pisses herself, and you just see this.
She pisses
this
directly
trail,
on the floor.
You know, this stream hit the carpet right below her. And it's so disturbing, and it's so simple.
Let me tell you, this one really hit home for me because I have a daughter who just won't stop peeing all over my floor. And our carpet is so gross. It's so gross. My wife buys in bulk these pet...
The enzyme stuff?
Yeah, the enzyme stuff with a bunch of like flowery perfume in it, and then she like vacuums it up just because it's so fucking nasty. This girl's been potty training for 2 years. Or no, 1 year. It's like a third of her life.
Yeah.
Hits home. Yeah, it's real disturbing to see a little girl come pee all over your floor.
Yeah, and it's very, very simple scenes that are disturbing.
Yeah.
And I guess the first inkling that you get that something is wrong is before then, like Reagan is in, you can hear my son crying in the background, maybe. Reagan is in Chris's bed, and Chris is like, "What are you doing in my bed?" She's like, "My bed's shaking."
Yeah.
Like, what is that? What?
Yeah, she says it so offhandedly. It's like, my bed's shaking. I can't sleep in there.
Yeah.
She's like, oh, okay, well, why are you in here? Like, it's exactly like the kind of throwaway thing that your kid would say that you'd be like, yeah, okay, all right. You don't even give it a moment to breathe because it's just unbelievable. It's something a child would say.
And also, like, it's something a tired child would say, too.
Right.
Like, you just woke up from mid-sleep. I mean, they didn't really play it that way, but it's, I don't know. It's just a weird thing. And then later it escalates, and then some of these scenes are so simple and you take them for granted. But in the moment, I don't know about you, but they were still super effective. Like the scene where it's just the bed shaking and Ellen Burstyn jumps on the bed and it's still like shaking violently.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I just watched it last night. I was legit terrified. I was like, holy shit. Like, cause I was with the characters. I was like putting my empathy, out there, and just how terrifying would that be? Just like, there's no explanation. Just if you're in the middle of it, like, when is this going to stop? What the fuck is going on?
I don't know what it is about this movie, but there is a little bit of a barrier between me and what's happening in this movie.
Yeah.
For some reason. And yeah, I don't feel that terror around these scenes. Mostly what I feel is X-ray vision. I go, I wonder what the guy's shaking this bed. I wonder what the contraption was like to accomplish this.
I guess, yeah, that's true. Especially on repeated viewings, you'd think about the production of it.
I mean, they had to have 4x4s hooked up on either side of this bed, and then like hinges. And so for me, it's just the practical effects just don't quite make it under that bar of believability for me. And that's where a lot of my hesitation with this movie comes in, is because I never felt quite, with the exception of the makeup and stuff, that's pretty top notch and still pretty disturbing to this day. Like the head spin and the vomiting and stuff. That's like core gross out effective still. But a lot of the like practical mechanical effects, I kind of see through it.
Really, I'm the reverse. Like I think those practical effects where it's just like moving stuff is really effective to me. It's like the makeup and the vomit and stuff. It's like, I look at that, I'm like, oh, well, that's just caked on makeup, and this is a key difference. And this is why films like Hereditary work so well on me, is because the thing that disturbs me are people. Uh-huh.
At its core, like when I'm camping in the woods, I'm not scared of animals or anything like that. I'm only scared of other people. That's it.
Yeah.
And so when I see a little girl whose head is spinning around and she's projectile vomiting on people, that's like my worst nightmare. And when I see Toni Collette float from, like, spoilers about Hereditary, when I see her do all these really horrifically spooky things in that house in Hereditary, ooh, that's much scarier than a door slamming or a bed shaking to me.
Yeah. So see, for me, I'm getting
chills just thinking about it.
It's much more like the empathy of the characters. Like empathy towards the characters
and their situation.
I'm experiencing it with them. And so the outside forces for them seem more scary for me because I feel like I'm experiencing them too.
I think mine comes from fight or flight. Like I need to deal with that. Like we need to deal with that person.
Yeah.
And,
so, I mean, the reason why the shaking bed is terrifying for me, and a lot of the other aspects of the movie are terrifying, is really because of Ellen Burstyn's acting. She is fantastic. I think she really carries this movie. It would not be a classic without her.
No.
Like, guy who plays Father Karras, he's good, but it's not super charismatic. There's not a lot going on there, but Ellen Burstyn's reactions and how she carries herself throughout the film communicates so much about what's going on and what her mental state is.
Yeah.
Like by the end when she's talking to Father Karras and just so timidly bringing up the topic of exorcism, she is on her last nerve.
Yeah.
She's exhausted everything.
Yeah.
And she is like at her wit's end. And that's like a cliche phrase, but you look at her at that moment, you're like, that's what that looks like.
Right.
Just so desperate and despondent. That
Right. Resigned and also like desperate.
Yeah.
Yeah.
She's fantastic. She's like one of the best actresses, full stop, in my opinion. Like I
don't know what else she's been in, to be honest with you. I'm not very familiar with her.
I mean, she's not in a lot of stuff, but what she's in, she's great. Like she's in one, if not the movie that's my favorite of all time.
There Will Be Blood?
Requiem for a Dream.
Oh.
Yeah, Requiem for a Dream.
Oh, was she the mom in that?
Yeah, she was the mom in that.
Oh.
And she was like fantastic in that movie.
Yeah.
That was another one where like, I mean, Jared Leto and what's his name? Was it Jamie Foxx? No, it was Marlon Wayans.
Yeah.
And Jennifer Connelly. They're good.
Yeah.
Like there was a lot of good stuff in there, but Ellen Burstyn was the heart of that movie.
Yeah.
Like that is like where the real tragedy was. And it's the same.
Wow. I felt like Ass to Ass was pretty tragic.
Well, that just made me hot.
Oh.
Ass to ass.
That's such a disgusting. Like that made sexuality so gross.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean that was
because it's forced.
Yeah.
It's so nasty.
Watching the director's commentary for that movie, like how they describe the guy, I can't remember who he's played by, the black guy in that. The guy that's basically the pimp, you know.
I watched this 20 years ago. I'm not.
Anyways, that guy is like the one guy with pure intentions. He's like, yes, I'll give you drugs for sex.
Yeah.
Like it's very simple. Like it's not.
Yeah.
I'm not fooling anyone.
This is
like,
transactional.
I'm not lying to myself. I'm not lying to you. Like this is what it is.
Yeah.
If you want drugs, do this. Everyone else is just lying to themselves and saying like, oh, well, this is for the greater good. Yeah. It's like, no. Anyways, Ellen Burstyn is fantastic in this movie. And I can't, like, this movie wouldn't be The Exorcist without her. So throughout the movie, the first half is really her trying to figure out what's going on with Reagan, and lots of medical tests, like disturbing medical tests, and looks very real. So William Friedkin actually went and saw in the hospital some of these procedures, and he saw the one procedure where it was like exploring the artery or whatever, where it's the scene where like the little blood is splurting out.
Is that real?
I don't know if that's real.
That looks so real.
It looks very real, but I mean, that's like, that is what that procedure would look like, because the actual doctor that does that was the one that was doing it.
Yeah.
In that scene.
It looks so real.
Yeah.
I'm almost convinced that they just stuck a needle, like a syringe in her artery. And
yeah. I don't think so. I think I would have come across whether that was real or not.
Well, they broke her back and they were okay with that. What's a little needle?
I don't think an actual doctor would agree to that, to just do an unnecessary surgery. Because that's like
people,
kind of the whole Hippocratic Oath kind of thing.
There's a funny thing that happens when you say, you're going to be in a movie. Suddenly, I would assume.
I mean,
doctors are just people, man.
I mean, Harvey Weinstein, that was his whole personality was based on that concept.
I guess so, yeah.
So anyways, all these tests, like, it's really disturbing to see a little helpless little girl being surrounded by these loud, giant mechanical machines.
Ugh.
Just being, you feel like how horrifying that would be for her.
Yeah.
It's really genuinely disturbing. And then, you get the sense that, Chris McNeil, the mother character in this, she's a famous actress. She's got money, and she's just throwing all of these resources into this problem. She's got like a panel of 80 doctors looking at this thing, and they have nothing for her. They're like, I mean, it must be psychological. And then
it's a very the killing of a sacred deer makes them a movie out of that concept,
right?
Out of this concept of what is wrong with my kid. We're doctors. We're going to look into it. We got a panel of experts. What's going on? What is going on with Bob?
Yeah.
And and it's one of my favorites. If you haven't checked it out, we did review it about a year ago. In my opinion, great movie. Bryce, not so much, but yeah, check out Killing of a Sacred Deer because it steals this vibe heavy, this hospital vibe.
And I'll tell you what, from a personal fear standpoint, and this might go to why I feel so empathetic, like the most terrified I've ever been in my life and the worst I've ever felt was when my son was in the hospital. And it's not like he was on life support or anything, but he was in the ICU.
Yeah.
He's a little kid. He was like 2 or 3 when this happened. And there's not a feeling that's more helpless than being a parent, seeing your kid like hooked up to machines and seeing them not get better. Like it's genuinely like it broke me.
Yeah.
I remember for that time.
I remember that.
It was, and I can't explain it. It's like, it's the same thing as like when I saw my dad.
You conceptualize it throughout your life and you're like, oh yeah, that'd be kind of rough. And then you get there and you're like, this is next level horror.
Yeah. Like I talked to you about this. Like when I saw my dad in the ICU after his heart surgery, that was another like, I was not prepared for it.
Yeah.
Like I did not realize how like visceral and how like impactful seeing your father and realizing
my dad's going to die.
Yeah. My dad's going to die, that his mortality is very real to you.
Yeah.
And it changed how I saw him since.
Yeah.
And it's it makes me bummed out. Like it's still really raw, and he's just getting older and it's just getting worse, you know, of just like, yeah, he's not going to be around in a decade.
Yeah.
It's just not going to happen.
Right.
Anyways, that's truly terrifying.
Don't worry, sir. We'll unthaw you after we find a cure for 87 stab wounds to the chest. How much are we up to now, boys? 75.
So, yeah, I mean,
if you don't laugh, you'll cry.
Yeah.
You know?
So a lot of that, all that goes in this movie. And like I said, like watching this movie as a father is it brings it up to a new level.
Puts a new lens on it.
And it was already like a really scary movie when I watched it as a teenager.
Yeah, as a kid, you're like, Jesus Christ, I don't want to be in that. Now you're like, I don't want my kid to be in that.
I guess we got to talk I think we'll get to everything. So the makeup, I mean, you said you like the makeup. I think the makeup is really good in the first half of it. It's pretty subtle, the changes, and then it just goes to pretty ridiculous by the ending. Just she looks like an actual like green demon at the end.
I wonder how much of this is hindered now on modern viewing because of a high def. Because you watch a movie back in a grimy old smoky theater in 1973, and probably you need a lot of makeup to make it through the resolution that was being projected on the screen at that time.
Yeah, I mean, the other thing is like just the technology around makeup is a lot further now.
Yeah,
like, that's just not something that you really appreciate,
right? As
a moviegoer, like, oh well, the CGI, look how much better the CGI is, or the compositing. It's like, no, like you don't realize
oil based makeup for that or something like that, where it's like, oh, it's just an inferior product.
Yeah, they're not using like really, really thin, like subtle latex things. There's like, no, they're just like caking on stuff and gashing into it to make a
right.
You know, so that's the one thing that I feel dates it a little, like the special effects. But that being said, everything is practical, and it's pretty impressive when you look at it that way, especially the scene where all those records and shit are flying around the room, like when it's like really crazy.
Yeah.
That, I mean, you have to think about it. It really looks like there's a fucking storm, like throwing stuff around the room.
Yeah.
And I don't know how they did it other than having like a horde of people throwing stuff violently all at the same time for a while.
Yeah, I don't know. I'd be really interested to see a making of this.
Yeah.
Because like I said, I already look at everything with X-ray vision in this movie. I'm just like, how do they do that?
Red Letter Media did a review episode on The Exorcist, and that's one of the points that they brought up is that, and they even compared that scene of throwing all the records and all the stuff, all the shit flying around the room. They show how much more effective that is than in the Poltergeist, like a couple years later, did the same thing, but with like blue screen. And it just looks so much faker and worse. Like it's so much less impactful because you're like, oh yeah, that's just a matte, composite of this thing onto. So
the scene I always think of when I think of like bad blue screen is, I think, Escape from LA, or it might have been Escape from New York, where he's
riding the wave,
riding that wave, and it just looks so fucking garbage.
Yeah, I mean, that's the one thing about practical effects that I think films are turning the corner on it a little more. They're realizing the limitations of CGI, and
it's not just a hammer that you use for everything. Use it for the fine details. Don't just cudgel it into use it for every goddamn thing.
Like with practical effects, like you can accept some imperfection, and you can accept some like a little bit of like, oh yeah, that's fake. But it's also more visceral. Like there's a difference between CGI when you see it's fake. It's like
there's a soul to the real thing.
Yeah. When you see like the fakeness in the CGI, it looks sterile. You're
right.
Like, that's not real because it doesn't exist in reality.
Yeah.
And you can tell, but when you see like makeup or something that you say like, well, that's obviously makeup. Yes, but it's also real.
Right.
Like, so it feels more visceral.
Yeah.
Overall. Let's see. Kinderman is kind of the detective is kind of a tertiary character, but he's really effective in this movie. I forgot like how good of a character he was in this movie. In Exorcist 3, he's like the main character.
I didn't really understand his role in this movie. Was just to kind of what?
Well, see, it's pretty. On this viewing, I realized how much of a big part the first guy that died on the stairs was. So I didn't realize it was actually
who was the director or the
director.
priest? Okay,
it was the director that was.
Yeah, and then what's with the stairs? Those stairs, they keep going to it, and it's like, but why?
Well, because they're scary.
Okay, all right.
Well, it's, I mean, in terms of the film, it's foreshadowing. It's like, what's going on with these stairs? It's like, well, there's going to be shit going down on those stairs, so it has to present them.
All right.
But yeah, the first death on the stairs of the director, you don't see it. You just find out that the director's dead, and they're talking about it, and they're like, he wouldn't jump out the window. It doesn't make any sense. So the only thing I could imagine is like someone very, very strong came in and threw him out. And so it doesn't, because the detective is like, the only other person in there was your little girl,
Linda Blair,
which is sick.
Yeah.
You know, so she's not
doing it.
There's not going to be a 12-year-old girl that can toss a man out a window. Like, think of that, how ridiculous that sounds.
Yeah.
Like I could pick up a 12-year-old and like toss him across the room.
Yeah.
They could not do the same to me. So, but from Ellen Burstyn's, from Chris McNeil's perspective, she's seen Reagan tossed people across the room.
Yeah.
Already. So she
Okay.
knows that.
So she's got the implication.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That she knows that it was Reagan that tossed this guy out the window. So that means that she murdered the director, like a close friend of hers.
Yeah.
And so I didn't realize how much of an underlying theme that was, because when she talks to Father Karras, she brings that up. She's like,
pretty sure he killed a guy. Pretty sure she killed a guy.
She killed the director guy, you know?
Yeah.
She's like, and it's horrifying to her. That's like, for her, is the real horror is that someone died because of this already.
This brings it full circle for me. Thank you very much.
And a lot of it is like, yeah, that's where Kinderman, where that character comes in. But I love that he's a huge fan.
Yeah.
He's like, can I get a autograph for my daughter? And she's like, all right, well, what's her name?
I lied. It's for me.
It's for me.
I just love you.
Okay, let's talk about the scene. This is the thing that I'm surprised they don't talk about. People don't, like, honestly, I went into this movie not knowing that this scene existed. Like, The Exorcist to me was head turning around,
right,
shaking bed,
vomit. Yeah.
At the re-release,
your mother sucks cocks in hell.
It was the spider walk, like,
your mother sucks cocks in hell.
Yeah, mother sucks cocks in hell.
Your mother sucks cocks in hell.
Thanks. The scene is she's violently masturbating with a crucifix.
Yeah. Not even masturbating, like just stabbing her genitals with the pointy end of a crucifix. Yeah. I guess all the ends of crucifixes are pretty pointy. It's not a good spot to be stabbing.
Yeah. Ugh. Like, it's so disturbing.
I feel it in my heels.
Like, I've seen it before. I've seen this movie several times, and that scene still, like, legitimately horrified me.
Yeah.
Last night when I watched it.
Yeah. There's a weird thing. Surrounding kids and sexuality that no one wants to ever talk about. And because it's the most disturbing thing.
Right. And especially, that's like the latent fears and the latent, like...
Because it represents innocence lost.
Yeah.
In its core, the problem that you're looking at when you see that happen, when you see that is a child becoming aware of, like, kind of their place in society, almost. It's a weird sort of innocence lost sort of thing.
Yeah.
And then to see it taken to such a horrific extreme, I can't believe it made it into the movie. I mean, there's a bit of the 70s movies had really pushed the limits.
There's a sweet spot of, you can put out anything in film in this, like, you know, probably 5-10 year period of just, it's so extreme that you look at it now and you're like, holy shit, how did that ever get put out? Like, there's no way that would be put out now and not have an X rating.
I can't remember, speaking of X rating, I can't remember the year that Caligula came out, but 79. But Caligula is the most, like, horrifically sadistic, gory, just unbelievable, nasty movie. And it came out in the 70s. And something about the 70s, they really pushed the limits of what was okay.
Yeah. And in contrast, Psycho, which came out a decade or two before this movie, it did get an X rating.
Wow.
And we watched the original Psycho, like, you can tell stuff is going on, but nothing is shown.
Right. It's all behind a curtain and granted, you know, the masturbation scene is essentially behind a curtain, but not it's all, there's no insinuation. It's all obvious.
Yeah. She takes her mom's head and, like, shoves it down and says, eat it. It's so fucking disturbing.
Yeah, it's like,
pretty
upsetting.
Oh my God. And then the phrase "your cunting daughter," which is just feels like a nonsense phrase, but it's like so seeing
it insinuates so many weird thoughts.
Yeah, seeing just such filth coming out of a little girl's mouth is disturbing. And I guess, the other part that carries this movie is the voice actor that did Reagan's voice.
Oh, okay.
And the backstory there is like, it's this voice actress, and she like, to get ready, she like chain smoked. She like basically did the most harm you could do to a voice to get that gravelly voice. And she was like a recovering alcoholic, and she knew that like, well, I got to drink whiskey to be able to get this specific voice. Ugh. And like William Friedkin like tied her up, her neck and her arms while she was recording, just so they could get this very visceral voice out of her. I mean, obviously very effective, but man, like that stuff is still very, very visceral to me. A couple more points. The music in this movie is very spare but effective.
Yeah. It's used twice.
Yeah. Well, I mean, the theme song is used twice.
Right.
But there's
the party where he's playing the piano.
I mean, the music, it's used more than you realize, but it's used effective. It's almost more like a sound effect.
Yeah.
A lot of the music in this movie is from like 20th century avant-garde composers, classical composers. Penderecki, George Crumb.
Oh, you love Penderecki.
Yeah, Penderecki's great. But all these Anton Webern. But yeah, George Crumb, it uses just like a second or two of Black Angels, which is one of my favorite. It's probably my favorite avant-garde piece.
Wow.
It's a quartet.
It's a fucking metal sounding name.
Yeah. Well, I've played it for you. It's that one, versus the violins, like.
Oh yeah. Yeah. Black Angels is also an acid band.
Anyway, so the music is super effective. The exorcism doesn't really take up a lot of time in this movie.
No, it takes up all the time in your head.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I felt like my memory said that like they did like 3 or 4 exorcisms, but really it was like one.
Yeah.
And then he went in and started another one, and he died.
Yeah, he got killed.
Really disturbing was Reagan just casually looking at the dead Father Marin.
Yeah, just kind of like, guess he's dead.
Yeah, that's so.
And then finally, the struggle between the father who lost his, or the priest who lost his faith, saying, "Take me, take me, jump. Why are you in this little girl? Just jump into me." And this happens
within the space of like 2 seconds.
Yeah.
Of this happening, and so it's a little confusing, like trying to understand what went on. But what actually goes on is Father Marin tells the demon to like take him instead. You see the demon take him over like almost instantaneously, and you can see that Reagan is Reagan again.
Yeah, she's crying. She's doing what a little girl would do.
Yeah. And then you see Father Karras possessed, like
fights it back.
Going, well, he looks at Reagan, and it's implied that he's going to kill her, that he's going to throw her out the window. And that's like, I didn't get that in the first couple viewings, but that's what's happening is he's going to toss Reagan out the window and kill her. And in a split second, Father Marin takes over,
fights the demon,
fights him by throwing himself out the window and killing himself.
Yeah, he's like, "Surprise, bitch!" Yeah, I wonder if you could fool a demon that way, or if they're faster than that.
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe you have to be a Catholic priest.
Yeah, maybe.
But I mean, that's the question to pose is who wins in this movie?
Yeah,
does good win or does evil win?
We bring up this other movie sometimes. It's that Denzel Fallen.
Mm-hmm.
This is this movie where this demon moves through contact. So it moves through crowds really quickly, but if you can get it alone, like in a big field, it's it's just within this one person and it dies with that person.
Yeah.
Kind of a vibe of that going on in this. Fallen's a great movie if you haven't checked it out, but yeah, it is very, it's like, well, obviously evil continues.
Yeah.
But this is a weird movie for a couple different reasons, because like, why did it even happen to her in the first place? The Ouija board?
Yeah. Captain Howdy.
Luigi board? Quidja? Like,
don't fuck with the Ouija board.
Is that actually, you tell me there wasn't some other kids somewhere else in the world playing with the Ouija board at the same time as her? Like, it's just random enough for it to be like, why did this even happen? It's kind of nihilistic.
Yeah.
And then how did it end? And what's like, why? Like, why everything?
Yeah. I mean, I'm going to say it's a draw, because it worked in a sense that they exorcised this demon from Reagan. But also there's death surrounding it and the evil lives on, but it shows that, good people can fight it.
Right. It's an interesting choice of title as well. I always think about the title of this movie. It's The Exorcist.
Right. It's not The Exorcism.
Not The Exorcism. It's not, Linda Blair and Captain Howdy go to town or something like that.
Captain Howdy goes to town on Linda Blair.
It's The Exorcist. And then the poster for this movie, or the cover art, is, The Exorcist with a top hat, backlit, his silhouette. It's an interesting choice, and it's iconic. It's an iconic title.
Yeah.
I just, why The Exorcist? I just want to know why.
Well, I don't know. I mean, I almost want to read the book just to figure out what it's like. Father Karras is definitely a central character in the movie, and he is the hero of it. And a lot of it is seen through his eyes, but half of the movie doesn't even really involve him at all. But I would say The Exorcist and The Exorcist is him.
Yeah.
Even though, like, really, Father Marin is the Exorcist.
Right.
He's the one that performs it.
Yeah.
I guess we didn't even talk about Max von Sydow, but he's great in almost anything he does.
Yeah, he's that classic. Boy, I was remembering. I thought he was in Caligula, but I was wrong. It was Peter O'Toole.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Okay. So that's all I want to talk about. There also on Shudder is this episode of Cursed Movies on The Exorcist that covers how these different productions that were quote unquote cursed. So there's The Exorcist, there's The Poltergeist, Twilight Zone, other movies. And I watched the episode on The Exorcist.
Gremlins.
Not super.
Do they have one on Gremlins?
I don't know. But it was kind of disappointing. Like, it just kind of mentions the stuff that we mention on this podcast, but doesn't go into depth. And then half of it is spent on, look, we found a real exorcist. Here's him performing real exorcisms. And it's actually kind of a good palate cleanser, because you see, like, oh, these are just crazy people. Like, it's people that are fooling themselves into believing that this is happening, but they're also kind of like putting on a show.
Yeah.
Kind of thing.
Well, but that's, in a weird way, that doesn't help me.
Yeah, like I said, to them it's real, but there's lots of stuff that's real to dumb people.
Yeah.
You should watch it and just see what I'm talking about.
But this is what I'm talking about. The fear is being a dumb person. Yeah. Did you ever wonder if you were retarded and no one ever told you?
Well, it's true.
See, this is the real fear, is maybe I am retarded.
Yeah, I guess that's true. Yeah, we do have a podcast, so there's a certain level of retardation that goes into that.
Yeah.
Okay, so final recommendations. Who would like The Exorcist?
Look, I'd recommend this to my grandma.
Yeah.
history.
Yeah, I mean, this is one where it's an important movie to see in film history, but it's not just like, if you're interested in film history, this is like one of those, but also you should definitely watch it.
Yeah, this is required viewing in my mind the same way as 2001: Space Odyssey, any Kubrick film, really, whether you like him or not. It's undeniable.
Yeah. Okay, let's move on to a new game for us that we're going to call Guess That Death. Guess That Death. Okay, so I'm going to play 6 clips from 6 different horror movies. And you have to guess what is happening.
How they die?
How they die, and extra point if you guess the movie.
Okay.
Okay?
Okay, extra point if I guess the movie. Okay,
Yeah.
I'm ready.
Clip number 1.
Give me one of these guys! Jesus Christ!
So this is the easy one.
What?
Let me play like just the first like half a second. Maybe it'll help out a little bit. Okay. That might help you a little bit, but if not, it's not.
There's a lot of gurgling going on. That indicates a throat slice of some variety. But there's also like after the gurgling, there's like a spray paint sound where it sounds like he's getting a can of Aquanet being sprayed in his eyes or something like that. So Home Alone?
It's from Home Alone 3.
No, my real guess, it just feels kind of Hellraiser-y to me. But
This is an iconic horror movie.
Okay.
Thriller.
Oh. I don't.
Okay. This is from Silence of the Lambs from 1991. This is where Hannibal Lecter is in that cage in the middle of the room. He cuffs one of the cops. He bites the other cop's nose off.
Yeah.
And then sprays the one guy with mace and then beats him to death with a billy club.
So I got the spray in the face.
Yeah, you got the spray.
Huh.
It wasn't a throat slit. He literally just bites his face off.
I get a half a point for that.
You get, okay, 1/2 point.
Yay.
I'll give it to you.
Okay.
Clip number 2.
Okay. This is definitely the part where they drop Judge Doom into the dip in Who Framed Roger Rabbit.
Good guess. No. This one is from 1989's Intruder.
Okay. All right.
This is, I don't know the character's name, but a guy gets his head sawn in half with a table saw.
Oh, good Lord.
Yeah. So that's what that's the table saw struggling to cut through someone's skull.
Well, I get a half point for that. No.
Clip number 3.
Okay.
You're half for 2.
Okay.
Slow down, horse.
There's blood everywhere!
No vegetables, no dessert.
No vegetables, no dessert.
I gotta play this one again.
There's blood everywhere.
Slow
down, Horace.
There's blood everywhere!
No vegetables, no dessert.
This feels very 90s.
Yeah.
It also feels like playful, like a Gremlins-esque sort of movie. Is it? You're making facial things. Help me out anyway.
I mean, I agree with those. Like those, that's pretty.
No vegetables, no dessert is such a quip, one line sort of thing. Is this kind of like a Critters movie or something?
No.
Am I close with Gremlins?
I mean, it's a 90s movie that's, I mean, just de facto 90s kitsch.
Yeah.
This is a Stephen King adaptation, if that helps.
No vegetables, no dessert. There's blood everywhere. Slow down. I don't know. I guess Thinner?
This is from 1992's Sleepwalkers.
Never would have gotten that. I didn't even know this existed.
This is the character's name is Horace. He's talking on the phone to his wife. And when Mary, one of the Sleepwalkers, comes up behind him and stabs him in the back with a half-eaten corn on the cob.
How did you find any of these?
There's a compilation.
Okay, all right.
But this was the fact that she stabs him in the back with the corn on the cob.
Yeah.
Like, ah!
No vegetables, no dessert. Like corn's a vegetable. Corn is dessert.
She said no starch, no dessert.
No starch.
I mean,
she said no starch?
No, she didn't.
Okay.
Okay, clip number 4. Not doing too good, Dave.
No, I'm...
Hello? Hello? All right, Annie. First I get your famous chewing, now I get your famous squealing. Annie, are you all right?
I feel like this is Black Christmas.
No.
Oh.
You're not far off, though. It's a classic.
I feel like I've seen this.
You have.
First I get your...
It's another holiday.
As it turns out, it's just really hard to hear the thing that's going on in the scene.
Right.
But I guess...
it's not what it would actually sound like, what's happening.
So this is Halloween, then?
Yes.
Yeah, this is Halloween, and this is... He's breathing on her. What's he doing? He's probably stabbing her. If I know Mike Myers, he's probably stabbing her with a knife.
You're right. It's Halloween, so you get a point.
Yay!
Annie calls Lori on the phone, and Michael Myers comes up behind her with like the sheet over him.
Yeah.
She thinks he's her boyfriend, and he strangles her to death with the phone cord.
Damn it!
And so she's like,
yeah,
getting strangled, and her tits are flopping out. You know.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's not how it's. You know, if you're actually getting strangled to death, you can't make a sound. Like if you're screaming consistently, that means you're getting air.
Well, no, you're just...
If you're going, that means you have plenty of air because you keep breathing in.
They should have just had a chorus of farts.
Yeah.
Just...
I know. They should have hired you. Clip number 5.
Man,
you might get this one. You might get this one.
Our boy from Southie might have a point.
Yeah, this one just sounds like chaos in the audio, but you've seen this movie, I guarantee it.
Did I already mention it this game?
No.
Darn. Can I have that whole clip again? No, I'm joking. There's a lot of gurgling at the end.
Uh-huh. I'll tell you, it's not gurgling.
Is it farting?
No, it's... The sound is coming from a liquid source.
Yeah, help me out here. Help me out a little bit.
This is a sequel to a classic movie that basically tells the exact same story.
So this is Wreck.
No.
No, Quarantine.
No.
Tells the exact same story. Huh.
It's a sequel, same director, like probably not that many years apart.
This isn't The Lost World. Nope. Jurassic Park, The Lost World, is it?
Nope.
I don't know.
Like literally the same story. Like not like the same story with different people. Literally the exact same movie, pretty much.
Oh, this is Evil Dead 2.
Uh-huh.
Ah, there it is. Yeah. So what was the gurgling?
So this is when Henrietta pops up from the cellar door and drags Jake into the cellar while Annie tries to pull him back.
Yeah.
And then a ridiculous amount of blood spews out and gurgles up from the clothes.
This is my favorite horror comedy.
Yeah.
Ever. This walks the line. Evil Dead 2 walks the line of ridiculousness and seriousness and humor so perfectly. Nothing touches it.
Yeah.
Nothing touches it.
Okay, last clip. You might be able to get
So I
this
got
up.
a point for that.
Yeah, you got a point. Even though I gave you a bunch of
Yeah, it was an asterisk.
I just saw her run.
Oh, what the fuck?
Let's have that one again.
Yeah.
I need to...
I just saw her run.
Oh, what the fuck?
It sounds like she gets stabbed through the throat, and then he and while she's sitting there still breathing with something through her throat, he opens a pair of scissors within her throat and severs her head, and somebody's like, Jesus goddamn Christ! Is that?
It's pretty close.
Is this Scream?
No.
Oh,
This is from it came out in 2019.
wow! What?
One of my favorite movies from 2019.
One of Bryce's favorite movies.
I just saw her run.
Ready or Not?
Oh, what the fuck?
Yeah, this is the end of Ready or Not.
No.
Oh, no, this is the crossbow.
Yes.
The crossbow in Ready or Not.
Yeah, so this is Ready or Not. Emily, who was given Fitch's crossbow, accidentally fires an arrow through Tina's head, one of the servants, and then the grandmother, Helene, chops Tina's head off when she won't stop groaning.
Yeah.
And so they're all in a room together.
I got it. Kind of.
You got 2. You got 2 points on that one. So you got a 4.5 points out of a possible 12.
Oh.
And that was Guess That. Thanks to Kitty H for suggesting that game to us. She's one of our loyal patrons, and we love her.
Yeah, I love her.
Yeah.
She's a sweetie.
I think we described her as our cheerleader on one of the previous episodes.
Yeah, she's in on every combo. Kind of a big deal.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that could be a staple. That's a real good game. All right. So finishing up, thank you so much for listening. If you're still here, you're one of the few, the proud, the horror movie talk fans. If that describes you, please share the podcast with a friend. And if you have an Apple product, leave us a rating on Apple Podcasts. That really helps us out. If you want to help out the show in other ways, check out our Patreon. If you're going to buy something on Amazon, click through the button in our banner. Special thanks again to Kitty and for Max for creating the intro music
and of
for
course,
us.
Dustin Goebel. I think we forgot to mention Dustin this episode.
Yeah.
Dustin Goebel is a professional artist who fucks hard, and he'll fuck you hard, or not quite that, but you get what I'm saying. He'll make some super awesome art that fucks real hard for you if you check him out at dgoebel DGOEBEL00. That's DGOEBEL00 on Instagram. Check them out. Make sure your artistic dreams are realized.
Okay, bye-bye now. Bye-bye.
Bye.
I'm getting the fuck out!